This is my 16.3 coaching session review and development plan. So this is where I actually go through my actual session plan, show you my actual session plan I made, and then go into detail and actually explain the review of my session that I completed. Okay, so first is the plan bit. So this is the aims and objectives that I planned out for the session. Next is the risk assessment, so the actual risk assessment that I planned and used for my session that I did. Next is the warm-up plan I did and used in the session I did. Next up is the main activity 1, so the first activity we did. Then this is the second activity that we did. And finally, this is the main activity 3 in the actual condition game, so the actual races at the end. And then there's the plan of the cooldown, so what we did at the end of the session. Okay, so going into the review, the actual aims and objectives. So the session aims were to work on the 4x100 meter relay event, work on working in running teams, and to learn and improve the techniques required. So I felt in my session I reached and did all these aims that I set out to do. So to work on a 4x100 meter relay event, I felt like all the activities and the whole session was basically planned around this. So I felt like this aim was met, as the whole session was based on this, and I felt like the activities that we did really reached this area. So that was good. Next is work on working on running teams. So I felt like in sessions that I planned, it was really concentrating on working in teams, running in teams, working as a unit. So I felt like this aim was really met, as the activities were really planned around this, so I felt like that was good. Also, the final one, learn and improve the techniques required. One activity, activity 2, was specifically looking at the technique of actually handing off the baton. So I felt like this aim was really concentrated on specifically in the middle part of the session, as the activity was planned around this, so I felt like this aim was really met because of that. Next, session objectives, to learn how to run as a unit. I felt this objective was met, as a lot of the activities were planned to be run in teams, and the races were running in teams, so running as a unit as an objective was very well gone over. Next is learn correct handoff techniques. Like I previously mentioned, activity 2 was really working on this, so I felt like this objective was met, as everyone was able to know the correct handoff technique at the end. And finally, learn how to run in a team. This is very much like the first objective. Activities were planned around to run as a team, so I felt like this objective was met very well. Next is the session SWOT analysis, so these are strengths and weaknesses. So first off, strengths of planning a session. I felt like I planned appropriate activities for the session that really concentrated on 4x100 meter relay. So I felt the activities I actually planned were very much good for this. Next is good progression of activities. I felt like the activities I planned had good progression, meaning people were able to improve better, and it also avoided tedium, as activities were able to progress as it got easier for people and it challenged people well. And finally, organisation of equipment. Before the session, I planned every bit of equipment I would need. This meant I was able to set up and everything was there right at the start, and it was very quick, so I felt like I had good organisation of equipment. Strengths of delivery. So I had good communication of instructions. I felt like I spoke clearly, and all the children understood me very well and understood what I wanted them to do and responded well. I also had good rapport with the participants, so this was where I was motivating them and complimenting them on good things, so I felt like I did this very well. I felt like I did this very well with the children, and that was a good thing. And finally, Q&A. So this was where I asked questions about what I was teaching and they had to answer. I felt like this was important, as it meant I understood what they understood and what they were understanding, and it also kept them on their toes and kept them thinking throughout the whole session. Okay, so moving on to weaknesses. Weaknesses of my planning was the actual timing of the activities. I felt like I didn't plan enough to cover the whole 40-minute session, so I thought this was a weakness, as I was stalling for time because I just didn't have enough activities to cover the time. Another weakness would be adaptation of activities. So this is how I would change the activities if something wasn't working or something wouldn't be able to work. I felt like I didn't have a backup plan or anything for any of my activities, so I felt this was a weakness as I wasn't prepared for this. And my final weakness in planning would be health and safety. I felt like I didn't cover and wasn't specific enough with my risk assessment, and I didn't cover all bases of health and safety, so I felt like this was a weakness in my planning. Weakness of delivery. I felt like time control was one of them. Much like timing of the activities, I felt like I just didn't plan enough and I wasn't coaching enough to cover the session. So I often found myself stalling for time and the kids were getting bored. So I felt like this was a weakness. Next one is control of the group. I didn't feel like the group was listening to me the whole time. I felt like sometimes they lapsed in concentration and wanted to mess around a bit. So I felt like this was a weakness as I wasn't able to control the group for the whole session. Final weakness would be generic comments. When I was complimenting the children, I felt like I was just saying yes, good, well done. I wasn't actually giving specific compliments and saying specific improvements, so I felt like that wasn't helpful enough, and I felt like this would be a weakness. Okay, moving on to opportunities. So this is what I can do and what there is out there to help me improve these weaknesses. So in planning, I could do a level 1 coaching course in athletics. So this would help me with the actual planning and the actual delivery of the session, as I would be qualified and have a really good knowledge of how to plan and coach a session very well. Another one would be a first aid course. This could help me with health and safety, as I'm qualified and have a very good knowledge of actual health and safety and how to keep a session safe and risk-free. With delivery, I could be mentored by an athletics coach and observe how they do it. So this could help me with stuff like time control and control of a group, how to actually coach a session, and give me knowledge of how to control a group, stuff like that. And the final one would be volunteering, officiating in an athletics track meet. So this can give me a figure of authority, help me work on controlling groups, and also give me a really good understanding of the actual event I'm teaching. Give me a good knowledge of technique and stuff like that. Okay, moving on is to threats. This is what will stop me from reaching these opportunities. So one could be timing. Say I'm working on the weekends and I have college in the week. I won't be able to maybe not have time to do level 1 coaching course as that takes about 6 weeks and takes up a lot of time. You have to do specific hours. Another one could be money. A coaching course costs about £100 and a first aid course is quite expensive as well, so I may not actually have the money to be able to do this. Another one could be qualifications. I may not be qualified to volunteer as an official at an athletics track meet, so this might cause a barrier and may not be able to let me do this. Another one would be opportunity. Say around my area there are no athletics coaches or anything like that. I won't be able to be mentored by one and observe one, as there's none around me and giving me the opportunity to do it. Okay, moving on is strengths, and this is going into 3 specific strengths. So one is good progression of activities. So I was able to improve and advance my activities in the session. The activities I planned were able to progress and get harder, which challenged them. This challenged them and avoided tedium, so they weren't getting bored by doing the same thing over and over again, and kept them on their toes. It also helped me advance and improve their techniques. As I was progressing it, I was making it harder, and this was making them work harder and do the technique better. And it gave them targets for the session. So, example of improving it would be I started off when I was teaching them the actual handoff. I started them off by just walking, but as I progressed it, I got them to start running. This was a good progression. It gave me targets for the session, as I said we start off by trying to do something, but we start off at a lower level, so we build up to it. So that's how it gave me targets. Moving on to communication. I was communicating and talking to them very clearly and formally. They were able to understand instructions, and it made the session flow well, as they understood and was responding to what I was doing well, and the session was, I didn't have to keep stopping and repeating myself, so the session just flowed better. It also improved the quality of my session as everyone was understanding me straight away, so there was no need to individually explain stuff or repeat stuff. And it meant they could practice correctly and efficiently. Because they understood it straight away, they knew exactly what to do. So them practicing correctly was they were able to practice correctly. And the final strength is good rapport. So during the session, I commented and responded well to the children. I was able to encourage and praise them well. This kept them motivated and wanting them to try harder as they were responding to my positive vibes. It meant the session flowed better as everyone kept going and no one wanted to stop and no one was giving up and stuff like that. And it just made it overall more enjoyable as they were having a good time doing it as I was giving them positive feedback and keeping them encouraged and motivated. Okay, moving on to the first area of improvement and development plan. So the first area of improvement I picked is time control activities. In terms of a SMART target, specific would be to this the exact length of each activity, so actually timing the length of activities and getting it into the right time. Measurable would be timing the actual activities, so with stopwatch timing the actual length of the activities and trying to hit them to a specific time I needed. An achievable target would be to aim to plan a 30-minute session, so it's not too long but it's not too short, so it's achievable. Realistic would be to divide each activities into about 10 minutes each, not making them too long so they're boring, but not making them too short so I can't actually teach during them. And finally, T for time would be to plan an actual session within a week's time with appropriate activities and activities that last long enough. So that would be a time achievable target. In development plan, so who does this area affect? So it affects the participants as if I'm stalling for time or run out of stuff. This could waste valuable learning time and can bring on tedium as they're bored of waiting around and doing the same thing over and over again. And it can also affect me as a teacher as it could throw me off what I'm trying to teach and my flow as I'm stalling to try and find stuff to do. So that could be a negative. How would I improve this area? Would be to observe and be mentored by an athletics coach, because I can see how they control time of the session, how they actually plan out each activity, and how they know how long each session is going to be. So that would be good. Why would it help? It would help to avoid tedium if the session is too short. It will also make the session flow better, and it will mean there's more time for improving technique than just waiting around stalling and repeating stuff. Second area of improvement would be health and safety. So in terms of SMART target again, specific to improve the safety of the actual session, so risk-free. How would it be a measurable target to make sure there are 0 problems during the session, so it's completely risk-free? How an achievable target would be to plan one safe risk-free assessment, so planning a session that is completely risk-free. Realistic target to plan one session with all health and safety checks, so a session that has everything health and safety check and there are no problems. And this target will be in terms of time, T, to improve a risk, to plan a risk assessment for a session in 1 week. So I have a full week to plan one risk assessment. Who does this area of improvement affect? It affects the participants in the session, as if the session isn't completely safe, then they could be succumb to injuries and there could be risks during the session. How would I improve this area would be to go on a level 1 first aid course, as I would be fully trained and have a good understanding on how to have a session that is completely health and safety checked. Why would this help? It would help to be trained and qualified, and it will make my sessions safer and will avoid any risks or problems and will just concentrate on improving and the actual sport. The final area of improvement is control of the group. So in terms of SMART target again, specific, to have a whole group and behaving and listening. How would this be measurable? To have everyone behave and there to be no problems for the full 30-minute session, to have everyone behaving for that time. Achievable would be to make sure no one has to be disciplined. I felt that's a fair achievement, so no one has to be told off or made to sit out, anything like that. To make sure no one has to be disciplined as well. And